Welcome to White Shadow Fare, where when you're making it homemade, you're making it with love. Today, I'm making a delicious rosemary bread. Your ingredients are yeast, honey, water, oil, sugar, flour, pepper, Italian seasoning, fresh or dried rosemary, and salt. Start by adding 1 1/4 cups of warm water to a bowl and 3 teaspoons of honey. To that, you will add 2 teaspoons of yeast, and you're going to let that proof for 5 to 10 minutes. While the yeast is sitting and proofing, go ahead and get your fresh rosemary diced up. If you're not using fresh rosemary, then take a tablespoon of dried rosemary to add to the dough. Otherwise, you need 2 tablespoons of fresh rosemary. Once you notice that the yeast has started to bubble, you can go ahead and start adding your dry ingredients. So the first thing I'm going to add is 2 1/2 to 3 cups of flour. I'm going to start with just adding 2 cups of flour to begin with. I'm going to add 1 1/2 teaspoons of salt and 1/4 teaspoon of pepper and 1/4 teaspoon of Italian seasoning. Then I threw in my 2 tablespoons of fresh rosemary, and it's only 1 tablespoon if you're using dried rosemary. 3 tablespoons of oil, Now you're going to start adding flour 1 tablespoon at a time until it gets to be the right consistency. You want it to clear the walls of your mixer and the bottom of your mixer, but you don't want it to be so dry that it's just traveling around in one giant lump. It's a lot easier to add a little bit of flour at a time than it is to try to get it to be the right dough consistency if you put too much flour into it. After the 8 to 10 minutes of kneading time is up, you are going to cover up your dough and let it sit and rise for the next 45 minutes to an hour. Now I bring the dough into kind of a smooth ball and cover it and let it rest for 45 to 60 minutes. This is a little bit sticky here. I always just let it rise right in my mixer so I don't have to get another bowl dirty. So after about 45 minutes or an hour, you should notice that your dough is quite puffy and has doubled in size, and that's the time to turn it out onto a countertop. Use a little bit of flour, not too much, so that you can shape it for your bread pan. And I just decided that I was going to do a simple braid here, just for something different, but you could just form this into a regular loaf. Once you have your loaf formed and it is in a greased loaf pan, go ahead and cover it and let it rise for about 45 minutes. Now, I always like to put an egg wash on my loaves before I put them in the oven. It just gives it a nice shine. So you take an egg, you beat it up, you can add a little splash of water if that's what you want, and you brush it on top of your loaf before it goes into the oven. And then you can top it with seeds, or this time I put a little bit of fresh grated Parmesan cheese. Kind of gives it a little bit of a decoration along with a little bit of flavor. At this point, it is ready to go into an oven that is heated to 375 degrees Fahrenheit for 25 to 35 minutes. This bread is very light and fluffy on the inside, much softer than a regular loaf of bread. It makes excellent toast the next morning. It went great with our dinner at night, so I hope that you will give it a try. This dough would also be excellent formed into rolls, or you could even put them in muffin tins so that they are kind of individualized a little bit. So thank you for joining me here at White Shadow Fare, and please consider subscribing and hitting that like button.